I owed a massive debt. In the middle of the night, I broke into the safe of the most ruthless mob boss in the city and was caught red-handed. He didn't call the cops. He slid a contract in front of me and smirked, "Stay by my side, and the debt is wiped clean." The night we signed, he lowered his head, sniffed the side of my neck, and his voice went dark. "I've been looking for you for 6 years." The safe was German-made, triple-layered steel, fingerprint plus password, with a mechanical backup lock. To most people, it was a solid wall. To me, it was a lullaby. My name is Silas, 23, and Omega, with 3 prior offenses, none proven, so they don't count. I am the best locksmith in the city, if the definition of best includes specializing in picking locks that don't belong to you. I was lying flat on the study carpet, my stethoscope pressed against the safe door, my fingers spinning the dial. 47 degrees, a soft click. 12 degrees, a second click. Just one last combination left. Did you know? A desk lamp suddenly clicked on in the darkness. The last person who tried to pry open this safe is still in the hospital, drinking his meals through a straw. The blood in my veins instantly froze. A man was leaning against the doorway. His suit jacket was draped over his arm, his shirt collar loosened to reveal the sharp lines of his collarbone. He hadn't turned on the overhead light, only the brass desk lamp in the corner. The light cast upwards, carving his face into cold, sharp angles. An alpha, and the kind of alpha who, the moment he entered a room, made the very air tilt toward him. I recognized this face. The whole city did. Damien Vale. On the surface, the controlling shareholder of 3 listed companies. In the shadows, well, anyone who owed him money either paid up or disappeared, and the safe I was picking belonged to him. You can choose to run. Damien walked in, casually tossing his jacket onto the leather sofa. I'd actually love to see how far you get. I didn't run, not because I didn't want to, but because my legs turned to jelly. The alpha's pheromones crashed down without warning, covering me like a massive dark thundercloud, heavy, steady, carrying the scent of cedar and rust. As an unmarked Omega, being crushed head-on by an aura like that made my knees buckle halfway. Who sent you? He sat in the chair opposite me, crossing his legs, his posture as relaxed as if he were entertaining a guest in his own living room, which, to be fair, it was. Kessler? Or those rats down by the docks? No one sent me. I gritted my teeth and stood up straight. I just purely wanted to steal your money. He raised an eyebrow. Purely? Very purely. Damien stared at me for 3 seconds before a sudden smile touched his lips. It was a very slight smile, just a small twitch at the corner of his mouth, but for some reason, it sent a chill down the back of my neck. How much? He asked. How much what? How much do you owe? He repeated. For a guy to break into my study in the middle of the night just to steal some loose cash, the debt can't be small. I stayed silent. 400,000. With compound interest, it was growing higher by the day. 3 days ago, they had sent someone to splash red paint on the door of my rented apartment, leaving a message. Next time, it won't be paint. 400,000, I finally confessed. I was already caught anyway. Confess and seek leniency. Resist, and I'd probably be directly buried in one of this boss's construction sites. Damien didn't say a word. He stood up, walked behind the desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a sheet of paper and a fountain pen. He slid the paper in front of me. I looked down. It wasn't a police report. It was a contract, companionship agreement. Stay with me, he said. 3 months. Appear as my partner on occasions when I need you to. It's just acting. In return, He tapped the number field with his pen. Your 400,000, I'll clear it. When the contract expires, we're even. I looked up at him, my mind buzzing. Why me? Because you're currently kneeling on my carpet, and I'm too lazy to go look for someone else. His tone was flat. Plus, you look barely passable. Me? Also, he added, a glint of something unreadable flashing in his eyes. I don't trust anyone with a background. But you, Silas, a petty thief who picked my lock, owns nothing, and could be crushed by me at any moment, are actually the safest choice. Wow. So in his eyes, my greatest asset could be crushed at any moment. I stared at the contract, stared at the numbers, and stared at the fountain pen he pushed toward me. Logic told me that signing anything with a man like this was signing my life away. But 400,000, and that pool of red paint at my door. I picked up the pen. The contract had 3 main clauses, and I read them word by word. Clause 1, only acting, no real feelings. Clause 2, in private, neither party will interfere with the other's personal life. Clause 3, upon expiration in 3 months, the agreement is automatically voided. All debts are cleared, and we never see each other again. Very fair, I said. I am always fair. He handed me the pen, his fingertips brushing against the back of my hand, seemingly unintentionally. I signed my name, Silas Croft. Before the ink could even dry, Damien suddenly leaned down, resting one hand on the back of my chair, casting me entirely in his shadow. I thought he was going to say something threatening. Instead, he lowered his head until his nose was almost touching the side of my neck and took a long, deep breath. I froze. For an alpha to sniff an omega's gland is an extremely intimate, incredibly offensive gesture. You, Damien, abruptly stopped. His entire body went rigid for a split second, and the fingers gripping the back of the chair suddenly tightened until the knuckles turned white. In the light of the brass desk lamp, I saw his pupils constrict. Impossible, he whispered, sounding almost as if he were talking to himself. What's impossible? He straightened up, taking a step back. For the first time, a crack appeared in his effortlessly composed expression. He stared at me, his gaze piercing as if trying to look right through me. Your pheromones, he said, his voice hoarse. It's been 6 years. I had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. All I knew was that from this moment on, the only acting, no real feelings contract I had just signed was already voided from the very first second the pen hit the paper. It all started with why I owed 400,000. My mom passed away early, and my dad left even earlier. Well, he didn't die. He just went out to buy cigarettes one day and never came back. I grew up in an orphanage. At 14, I started learning the trade from an old locksmith. Right before he died, the old man told me, Silas, a lock can protect a person, but it can also trap them. Just make sure you know the difference. I didn't know the difference. I only knew that picking locks could earn me money. Later on, I did a few commissioned lockpicking jobs for a broker officially. It was helping clients open doors they'd forgotten the keys to. Unofficially, I never asked what I was actually opening. Until one time, that broker took the money and ran, dumping all the debt on my head and forging a few IOUs with my signature. 400,000 with compound interest. An omega like me, who couldn't even piece together his own past, was suddenly crushed under the weight of a mountain. So when Damien Vale slid that contract in front of me, I was almost grateful. Even if the man sitting across from me was more dangerous than that mountain. The day after signing, I was moved into Damien's apartment. Top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, an entire wall showcasing the city's night skyline. My meager belongings fit into a single canvas bag, dumped in the middle of this priceless apartment like a grain of sand dropped into a lake. The butler arranged a guest room for me. Notice, guest room, Mr. Vale stated. The butler said expressionlessly. Clause 2 of the agreement. In private, no interference. Your room is on the east side. I breathed a sigh of relief. Good. Very good. At least this boss was a man of rules. But that very night, Damien smashed the rules he had set himself. I woke up in the middle of the night to get water. Passing through the living room, I saw him sitting on the sofa in the dark, holding a glass of whiskey, staring straight at me. Can't sleep? He asked. Thirsty. Come here. I hesitated, but walked over anyway. He reached out, suddenly grabbed my wrist, pulled me close, and once again leaned into the side of my neck to sniff. Mr. Vale, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Clause 2 of the agreement. I changed my mind. He let go and leaned back into the sofa. Clause 2 is void. You can't unilaterally. Silas, he cut me off. His voice was soft, yet carried an undeniable weight. I never need anyone's permission for what I do. In the days that followed, Damien acted like a wound-up, paranoid control freak. When I was reading, he would suddenly sit next to me without saying a word, just trapping me in the narrow space between him and the armrest of the sofa. When I was cooking, he would stand at the kitchen door with his arms crossed, watching me until my hands trembled as I chopped vegetables. He would knock on my guest room door late at night, do nothing, just stand at the threshold and ask, "Can I just sit in here for a while tonight?" I never agreed once. Because of Clause 1, no real feelings. You broke Clause 2, I said through the door. But I'm going to uphold Clause 1. Silence stretched on the other side of the door. Then I heard him let out a low chuckle. Fine, he said. Then let's see who breaches first, you or me. I leaned against the door, my heart pounding so fast it felt like it would burst out of my chest. I knew exactly what kind of man I was playing with fire with. But what I didn't know was he had already won. From the moment he first smelled my pheromones, he had already won. Our first public appearance was at a charity gala. Damien had a custom-tailored suit prepared for me. Dark gray, slim fit. Standing in front of the mirror, I could barely recognize myself. Not bad. He walked up from behind, adjusting my bow tie, his fingertips brushing past my Adam's apple. Tonight, you are my partner. Remember your role. Adore you. Rely on you. Can't live without you. I recited my lines. I remember. And one more thing. He lowered his head, his lips grazing my ear. A lot of people will try to get information out of you tonight. They'll ask where you're from, how you met me, how long we've been together. How should I answer? Don't answer anything. He straightened up, his eyes turning cold. Lean into my side. Let them think you're just a beautiful pet I'm keeping. My heart skipped a beat. So, in his script, I wasn't even considered a partner. I was a pet. At the gala, I met Kessler. Damien had mentioned the name his biggest rival. Operated port logistics on the surface, but handled everything under the table. Kessler was in his 50s, his silver hair combed immaculately. When he smiled, his eyes narrowed into slits, like a coiled snake. Damien. He walked over, holding a wine glass. Is this the new little lover you're keeping? Silas. Damien offered only a name, but his arm wrapped around my waist with practiced ease, pulling me a little closer to his side. Kessler's gaze lingered on my face for 2 seconds. In those 2 seconds, my back broke out in a cold sweat. Because the way he looked at me wasn't like he was looking at Damien's lover. It felt more like he was recognizing me. Interesting, Kessler smiled. Damien, your tastes are getting wilder. Where did you pick him up? None of your business. Damien's tone was flat, but his grip on my waist tightened. Kessler gave me a meaningful look, raised his glass, and turned to walk away. I breathed a sigh of relief, but suddenly felt something was wrong. That look, the way Kessler looked at me, it was like he recognized something. Back at the apartment, Damien was uncharacteristically silent. He pinned me against the wall in the entryway, planting both hands on either side of my head, trapping me. What did Kessler say to you? It wasn't a question, it was a command. He asked where you picked me up. Damien's jawline tightened. The way he looked at you was wrong. He stared at me. Have you met him before? No, I answered honestly. I'm just a lockpicker. How could I possibly know a Port Mob boss? Damien stared at me for a long time. Then he suddenly lowered his head, resting his forehead against mine, and let out a long breath. Silas, he said, if one day you discover your past is connected to me. What? He didn't finish. He took half a step back, resuming his usual cold, hard expression. Nothing. Go to sleep. I went back to the guest room, lying in bed, tossing and turning. Damien's unfinished sentence was like a thorn stuck in my heart. Your past is connected to me. I was an orphan. What kind of past could I possibly have that tied me to a boss like him? The next day, while Damien was out, I did something stupid. I picked the second safe in his study. Yes, the one I had failed to open the first time. I told myself I was just curious. I told myself I just wanted to know what he meant by, I've been looking for you for 6 years. There was no money inside, just a metal box. I opened the box. Inside was a stack of photos. The photos were of a kid, about 17 or 18, standing in front of an orphanage, smiling foolishly. It was me. I never knew someone had taken pictures of me like this. On the back of the photo, a line was written in fountain pen. The handwriting had been traced over repeatedly, so deep it nearly tore through the paper. Is greater than, wait for me to find you. I held the photo, my hands shaking. Have you found what you were looking for? Damien's voice came from the doorway. I whipped my head around. He was leaning against the study doorframe. I didn't know how long he had been standing there. There was no anger on his face, only a kind of near fragility I had never seen before. Why? Why do you have photos of me? My voice trembled. Did we know each other? Damien walked in, gently taking the photo from my hand, his thumb brushing over the grinning teenager in the picture. 6 years ago, he began, his voice low, I was jumped by 3 guys in an alley in the south side. I was stabbed twice and left by a dumpster to die. I held my breath. Everyone walked past me. Someone even kicked me. He paused. Only one kid stopped. He called an ambulance for me, took off his own jacket to press against my wound, held my hand the whole time, and told me, don't go to sleep. Don't go to sleep. The ambulance is almost here. He had a scent on him. Damien looked up, his eyes seeming to burn as they locked onto mine. I've never smelled anything like it on anyone else in my entire life. Not until that night, when you picked my safe. My mind went entirely blank. 6 years ago, the South Side, I did save someone. A man covered in blood. I called an ambulance for him, and as soon as it arrived, I ran because I had a warrant out for me at the time and didn't dare stay to give a police statement. I thought it was just one of countless trivial events in my life. I never knew that the man had spent 6 years looking for me. So that contract, my voice shook. From the very beginning it was. It was a trap I set, Damien admitted bluntly. I knew about your debt long ago. The people who threw red paint on your door were my men. My eyes went wide. I backed you into a corner, he said, just to see if you would come and pick my safe, because I remembered you were a locksmith. You I know, he cut me off. I know it was despicable. He took a step forward, backing me up against a desk. But if you hadn't come to pick my safe, how could I have justifiably kept you by my side? Silas, you're a proud person. You wouldn't accept my charity. You would only accept a transaction. So, I gave you a transaction. I looked at him, my eyes burning. Clause 1 of the agreement, I said hoarsely. No real feelings. You wrote it yourself. I did. Damien smiled, and there was bitterness in it. And the moment I wrote it down, I was already in breach of contract, because I developed feelings a long time ago, 6 years ago, in that alley. That night, I didn't go back to the guest room. Damien didn't touch me either. We just sat side by side in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the lights of the entire city. The way Kessler looked at you was wrong, he suddenly spoke. I looked into it today. The 3 men who jumped me 6 years ago were sent by Kessler. My heart sank. He wanted to kill you. He has always wanted to kill me, Damien said calmly. But he failed that day, because some kid poked his nose where it didn't belong. He recognized me. He might have. Damien turned his head to look at me. Kessler's men also saw the kid who saved me 6 years ago. He's been looking for that person ever since, to tie up loose ends. A chill ran down my spine. So, at the gala that night, the way he looked at me, he was trying to identify you. Damien's hand covered mine. Silas, bringing you in front of him was the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. I thought I could protect you. I flipped my hand over and gripped his. So what do we do now? Now! Damien's eyes turned icy. We rip him out by the roots. The plan had 3 steps. Make Kessler believe I was indeed that kid from 6 years ago, and that Damien was completely in the dark. Make Kessler think he could use me, turn me against Damien, and mold me into a knife aimed straight at Damien's heart. The flip. When he puts all his cards on the table, Damien said, we flip the table together. You want me to be a double agent? I want you to be my man, he corrected, while he thinks you're his. I stared at him. That's dangerous, which is why I'm giving you an out. Damien pulled the companionship agreement from the drawer and tore it in half right in front of me. The agreement is void, he said. From now on, you can leave whenever you want. I will still clear your 400,000 debt. I won't use anything to tie you down anymore. If you walk away, I won't stop you. I watched the 2 halves of the contract flutter to the floor. Something in my heart that had been pulled taut suddenly released. I'm not leaving, I said. Why? He asked, his gaze burning. Because of Clause 1. I smiled, though my eyes were stinging. I fucking breached the contract too. Kessler's people found me soon after. A man claiming to be an old friend sat across from me while I was out getting coffee alone. 6 years ago, in the South Side alley. He got straight to the point. You're the one who saved Damien Vale, aren't you? My heart skipped a beat, but I feigned panic perfectly. How? How do you know? Mr. Kessler has been looking for you. The man smiled like a snake. You saved the wrong person, kid. Damien Vale is not a good man. Do you have any idea how many bodies are buried under the apartment building you're staying in? I stayed silent. Mr. Kessler admires you. The man slid a card across the table. As long as you provide Damien's itinerary, his safe passwords, who he meets, Mr. Kessler will give you a sum of money, enough for you to flee anywhere and start over. I stared at the card. According to the script, I was supposed to hesitate, waver, and act out a desperate Omega's thirst for money and freedom. I acted it out perfectly. I'll think about it. I grabbed the card, my voice trembling. The man smiled in satisfaction. Smart boy. What he didn't know was that from the second he sat down, Damien's men were watching him from 3 different directions. For the next 2 weeks, I became Kessler's most trusted inside man. Every piece of Damien's itinerary I leaked to him was real, except it was deliberately given to me by Damien to leak. Every document I secretly photographed for him was fake, forged by Damien overnight. Kessler stepped into the trap piece by piece, believing victory was firmly in his grasp. And I was Kessler's spy by day, and the Omega in Damien's arms by night. You acted very well today, Damien said, as he helped me take off my disguise, wrapping his arms around me and resting his chin on top of my head. I'm a professional, I said lazily. I've been conning people for years. Not anymore, he suddenly said. What? From now on, no more lying to people. No more picking other people's locks. No more putting yourself in danger. He tightened his embrace. When this is over, I'll take care of you. I looked up at him. I don't need anyone to take care of me. Then we'll take care of each other. He lowered his head, pressing his forehead against mine. Silas, I looked for you for 6 years. I don't want to lose you again. At that moment, I suddenly had an overwhelming urge to cry. An orphan who nobody wanted his whole life, yet someone had spent 6 years looking for him. It was raining the day we showed our hands. Kessler arranged to meet me at a warehouse by the docks. For the handover, he thought I was bringing him Damien's core ledger. The ledger that could put Damien in prison and let Kessler swallow all his assets. I walked into the warehouse holding the brown paper bag. Kessler stood in the center, flanked by over a dozen henchmen. Where is it? He held out his hand. I handed the paper bag over. He opened it, pulled out the ledger, flipped through a couple of pages, and a triumphant smile spread across his face. Damien Vale, he sneered, schemed his whole life only to fall at the hands of a petty lockpicker. Yeah, I said calmly, schemed his whole life. But are you talking about him or you? The smile on Kessler's face froze. The rolling door of the warehouse rumbled open. Outside, police lights flashed in a sea of red and blue. Damien stood in the rain holding a black umbrella, slowly walking inside. Kessler, he closed the umbrella, shaking off the rainwater. The ledger in your hands isn't tracking my accounts. It's tracking yours. Kessler's face changed drastically. He frantically flipped through the ledger. The pages were densely packed with records of his smuggling, money laundering, and contract hits over the years. Every single entry had a time, location, and handler. Impossible. His voice shook. This is impossible. I'm the only one who knows about these things. No, I spoke up. One other person knows. Your accountant, Morris. Damien's people flipped him 3 months ago. You thought you were using me to turn against Damien. I looked at Kessler's ashen face. But from the very beginning, the one being hollowed out from the inside was you. Kessler lunged forward like a madman. Damien grabbed my arm, pulling me behind him to shield me. The next second, the police swarmed in. As Kessler was escorted into the police car, he turned back and glared at me viciously. You're going to regret this, he roared. Damien Vale is 10 times more ruthless than I am. You think he really loves you? He's just using you. Once he gets tired of playing with you, enough. Damien cut him off coldly. Take him away. The police car drove off. It was still raining. Damien opened the black umbrella, holding it over my head, sheltering my entire body between him and the canopy. What he said, I looked up at him. Will you get tired of playing with me? Damien looked down at me for a very, very long time. Then he suddenly smiled. It was the softest smile I had ever seen on him since we met. Silas Croft, he said, I looked for you for 6 years. Do you think I could ever get tired? After everything was settled, Damien took me back to the penthouse apartment. The moment we walked through the door, he pinned me against the wall in the entryway, the exact same wall where he had first smelled my pheromones. The contract is torn, he said. Yeah. The $400,000 is paid off. Yeah. Kessler is locked up. Yeah. So right now, he leaned down, his nose brushing against my scent gland. You have absolutely no reason to stay by my side anymore. My heart beat like a drum. Unless, I whispered. Unless what? His lips pressed against my skin, his voice hoarse. Unless you give me a reason. Damien lifted his head and looked into my eyes. Silas Croft, he said, pronouncing each word carefully. Be my partner. Not acting. Permanently. Let me mark you. I looked at the most ruthless alpha in the city, who right now looked like a man awaiting a verdict, so nervous he was even breathing lightly. I reached out and wrapped my arms around his neck. You should have asked earlier. The night he marked me, I had a dream. In the dream, I was back in that dirty, foul-smelling alley from 6 years ago. A man covered in blood was slumped by a dumpster. 17-year-old me squatted down, took off my jacket to press against his wound, and held his freezing hand, repeating over and over, Don't go to sleep. Don't go to sleep. The ambulance is almost here. Using the last of his strength, the man looked at me and asked, What's your name? I didn't tell him. I was afraid he would remember me and point me out to the police later. So I didn't say a word and ran the moment the ambulance arrived. But it turned out he remembered anyway. He remembered my scent. He remembered my foolish face. He remembered the words, Don't go to sleep. And then he spent 6 years looking for me. When I woke up, Damien was propped up on one arm, watching me. The gland on the side of my neck was faintly burning the mark of a fresh bond. You're awake? He leaned down and pressed a kiss to my forehead. Damien, I asked, my voice raspy, why didn't you tell me earlier that you were the man from 6 years ago? Because I was afraid, he confessed, a rare vulnerability. I was afraid that if you knew the truth, you'd think I was a lunatic. To spend 6 years searching for someone I'd only met once and construct an entire scheme just for him. You are a lunatic, I said. He froze for a second. But I hooked the corner of my lips, leaning in to kiss him. You're my lunatic. The days that followed were calm, yet thrilling. Calm, because with Kessler's downfall, no one dared to lay a finger on Damien Vale and his partner. Thrilling, because this paranoid alpha took the concept of possessiveness to the extreme. He arranged a cushy job for me at his company, claiming, This way, you'll be under my watch every single day. He changed all the locks in the house to top-tier security models, claiming, This way you'll have no locks left to pick, so you'll just have to pick me. He even bought the very alley where I had saved his life and built a small garden on the spot, claiming, Because this is where you gave me my life back. One night, I couldn't sleep again. I got up, walked to the study, and stood in front of the safe I had tried to pick twice before. I crouched down, placing my fingers on the dial. 47 degrees. A soft click. 12 degrees. A second click. 30 degrees. A third click. The safe door opened. This time, there was no money and no photos inside. Only a ring and a note. The note was in Damien's handwriting. Is greater than I knew you'd try to pick it again. So I put this in the place you were most likely to strike. Is greater than Silas Croft. Marry me. I turned around. Damien was leaning against the study doorframe, just like that very first time. Only this time, there was no mockery on his face, no calculation, only an ocean of tenderness that he had hidden for 6 years. How did you know I would come pick it? I held the ring, my eyes welling up. Because I know you. He walked over, dropped to one knee, and took the ring from me. You've picked countless locks in your life, but you've only ever picked open one person's heart. He held my hand and slipped the ring on, and I am willing to let you keep it open for the rest of my life. My name is Silas Croft, 23, Omega, former locksmith, and now the owner of the one lock Damien Vale can never and will never want to pick open. I used to think my life consisted of picking open door after door that didn't belong to me, only to leave empty-handed. Until one day, I broke into a certain man's safe and discovered that behind that door was a man who had been searching for me for 6 years, and a sentence that was 6 years late. You're finally here, extra. In that alley 6 years ago, I thought I was going to die. Everyone walked past me. Only a kid, as skinny as a beanpole, stopped. He called an ambulance for me, took off his own jacket, an old, thin thing worth absolutely nothing, and pressed it against my wound. He held my hand, repeating, "Don't go to sleep." I remembered his scent, a very faint omega pheromone, like grass after the rain, tinged with a bit of dirty dust, yet it was the most comforting scent I had ever smelled in my life. I asked him his name, but he wouldn't say. As soon as the ambulance arrived, he ran. He ran so fast, as if he was terrified I would remember him, but I remembered him anyway. I lay in the hospital for 3 months. The first thing I did after being discharged was look for him. I used every connection I had, scoured every piece of security footage near that alley, checked the records of every orphanage in the city. 6 years. I searched for 6 years. During that time, I sent the men who jumped me to prison or the grave, one by one. I slowly devoured Kessler's territory piece by piece. I became the most ruthless man in the city. Also that one day, when I saw that kid again, I would have enough power to protect him for the rest of his life. Then, that night, I came home from working late and heard a noise in the study. I pushed the door open and saw a slender figure crouched in front of my safe, a stethoscope pressed to the door, his nimble fingers turning the dial. I originally intended to just call security, but when I stepped closer and caught that familiar, faint scent of fresh grass, my heart, in that single second, stopped beating. It was him. The person I had searched for 6 years had actually picked open my door and walked right in all on his own. I stood in the dark, watching the profile of his face as he focused on stealing from me, and suddenly smiled. "Silas, you had no idea. You thought you were picking my safe, when in reality, what you picked open was the entire heart of a man who had waited for you for 6 years. And this time, I would never, ever let you run away again."